Hey everybody, Dave Isaacs here, and this is kind of a quick casual video. I've got the cell phone up here on the ring light stand, and I was working on something recently that I realized would actually fulfill a old promise that I have not lived up to, and that is a lesson on the guitar solo for Johnny Cash's Folsom Prison Blues. I did a lesson on the strum part of it probably 3 or 4 years ago, and I did say then I was going to do the solo, so I apologize for the delay, but I'm going to get into it right now. Now, I should point out that I've got a capo at the first fret, and this is so you can play along with the recording. Most people play the song in E without a capo. A lot move it up to G. It really depends on the vocal. But to be able to play Luther Perkins solo properly, Luther Perkins is what I meant to say here. I don't even know if I'm going to edit this, so if I stumble, I stumble. But I want to get it done. In order to play Luther Perkins solo properly, you really need open strings. And so if you have found tabs online that have it in the key of F without open strings, the notes are right, but it's not going to be playable in the same way, and you're not going to get the vibe or the feel. So the fingering is actually more important than whether or not you're using the capo. But if you're not accustomed to using a capo on an electric guitar, this is a great way to get used to it. And you just want to keep in mind, of course, that when you get up the neck, and this may not apply to you, but it absolutely applies to me, and I think you probably will find this is true. By the time you are 6, 7 frets away from the capo, you're not thinking of where you are relative to that capo. Visually, it's just kind of confusing, especially when you're accustomed to, on this part of the neck, finding things in certain places. So if I am thinking of an E1 chord, it's one thing for me to be down here on an E-shaped chord next to the capo, or even to be 2 or 4 frets up from the capo. But by the time I'm up here, I really just need to remember that I'm playing in F, or at least that when I move up the neck, I am aiming for an F chord, or I will not have the right position. Now, if I play without the capo, then everything is just going to be a half step lower. The tab that I have linked below in the description is in open position or relative to the capo. So just remember, if you use the capo, every number is going to be 1 fret higher, but it gets a little confusing. So it's worth keeping that in mind, that as you move away from the capo, your knowledge of the upper parts of the neck becomes more important in order for you to keep your place. So here's what we're going to do to start with. We're going to go on up to frets 8 and 10. If you were not capoed, it would be frets 7 and 9. And we're going to play this lick. Now, it's worth knowing that what we're working with here is a piece of an F7, which would be an A-shaped bar chord here at the 8th fret, or the 7th, again, if you're not using capo and following along on the tab. This is minor third, major third, relative to that major chord, and that's, again, whether we're here or here. So it gives us this nice little bluesy move of the minor 3 to the major 3, up to the 5, and then the minor 7, the note that would make an F7 chord if I added a pinky on the 1st string at the 10th fret to this bar, or in E on the 1st string, 11th fret for this bar, 10th fret for this one. The 7th of F is an E flat, 11th fret of the E string, the 7th of an E7 is D, 10th fret of the E string. So, if you're following along on the tab, then it's 8, 9, 7, 10, 7, 10. If you're capoed, 9, 10, 8, 11, 8, 11. And then we repeat, but hold that high note longer, and then first lick repeats, and then we end by just walking down the major triad. In this case, it's 8, 10, 10. So here's this whole part. 2, 3, 4, 9, 10. 9, 10. Notice that I'm hammering, picking everything else. 8, 10, 10. Now again, if you're following the tab, no capo. 8, 9, 7, 10. Notice it's the same sound. You're just outlining E7 instead of F7. So you should be aware, to help you keep your place, of the A-shaped bar chord, the high seventh, and the major triad. For F, it's 8, 10, 10. For E, it's 7, 9, 9. So now I'm staying in 8th position because I am in F, I'm capoed on 1, and I need to drop down to the 4 chord, which, if you're not capoed, is A. If you are capoed, looks like A. And I'm playing, it's a B flat, but it's A shape, with one finger at the 2nd fret, and I need my pinky free to be able to get this high note. Now what we're gonna do is sort of somewhere between a strum and a pick. As always, I'm not pretending that this is a definitive transcription of what Luther Perkins played. What I want you to get from this is the gist of it and the musical techniques that he's using, which really has the most value for you unless you are specifically trying to learn something exactly note for note, which is great and admirable, but keeping in mind that within that, if you get the concept, if you understand what a player is using to create the sound they created, that's going to have the biggest impact on your growth as a player. So in any case, A shape, and more of a strum than a pick. So when I brush the middle, I'm not being so specific about which strings I hit. I'm just thinking in terms of low, middle, and high, high, middle. Now, it sounds a little different if on that last downstroke I bring out the 3rd string or the 2nd. But again, the technique is the main idea. It's this brush over the middle of the guitar. And as long as we hear bum, ba, dum, da, dum, down, down, up, down, with this high A on the and of 2, and with this low A on the downbeat, or B flat. 1 and 2 and 3. And then we play the same figure, but after that high A, you release, hit the open E and open B with up, down. So we have this on the A shape. This is the thing you can't duplicate without the capo if you want to play an F, or else you're going to play an E. So here, then we're going to jump up the neck. This is simply a major triad. It's a B flat now. Like I said, I'm far enough from the capo that I'm better off just thinking of this as B flat than thinking of it as A visually, because I find it confusing to the eye when I do that. This is simply the 3 high notes of an E-shape bar chord. String 3 with the middle finger, in this case fret 7, fret 6, fret 6 again on strings 2 and 1 with a partial bar. Now you can make that partial bar 2 strings, just getting this tip segment of the finger to cover strings 1 and 2. I find that it's easier for the proportion of my hand to let that bar cover 3 strings, even though my middle finger is covering the 3rd string, and therefore the bar here isn't doing anything other than putting the other strings on a better place, a better part, a more secure part of that tip segment. And we're gonna pick 3rd, 2nd, 1st, 1st, 2nd, with those last 2 notes as open strings. So I'm holding this shape, right? Think of it as a small F maybe, F shape or E shape. 3rd, second, first, open, open, and it's down, down, up, down. And then we're going to do the same thing on the next version of B flat, which is going to be up here, 10th fret. Here's why I have to think carefully, right? See, look, this is a B flat chord, or an A if you think about it that way. This is also a B flat, or A at the 5th fret with no capo. And then this is also a B flat, what we might think of as a C shape. If you're familiar with your caged system, C shape, A shape, G shape, E shape, D shape. But the D shape really can be voiced as a C shape, often is like this. But I think we're going to play it more like a D formation. You see the differences in the fingering. If I do this, it still looks like a D, but it's coming straight from the C formation. Whereas if I finger it this way, you're just going to think of it as D. Either way, you're just going to play 3rd, 2nd, 1st, open, open, just like we did on the last chord. So here's that whole section on the 4 chord. And you want to bring out, I would say, the 3rd string note here, here, and then down, up, down, 1 and middle, middle, high, middle, down, down, up, down. And when you come down on that final downstroke on beat 4, pick up the index finger, and then the index goes back for the next bar. It's the same figure with the same strum. The only difference is when you bring out the highs. Low, middle, middle, high, middle, low, middle, high, high, middle. Now the same thing. Middle, middle, high, middle, middle, high, high, middle. Now we go to a B7 chord in the open position. It's a C7 with the capo, of course. Bass is the 5th string, middle, high, high, 3rd string. Bass, middle, high. And then, boom, chick, boom, chick, boom, chick. If you're familiar with the intro lick, off our B7 position, you're just hitting string 5, string 4, string 5, and then with the middle finger bending the 2nd fret by pulling on it from F sharp up to G, release back to F sharp and the open E. That's the intro. The basic electric guitar part in the rhythm is just 6, brush the middle, 5, brush the middle. So on the E chord, it's this. And when I brush the middle, I've got everything, actually not just the middle, the basses too. I've got everything muted. And then our walk up to A. Upstroke some of the time just to simulate the slapback effect on the recording. But he would have just been playing a downstroke. And then a B7. Now he may vary this pattern a little bit as it goes through the song, but the basic thing that I hear in the rhythm is on the B7, 5th, 4th, 4th, 5th, 4th, 5th, 6th, 5th, 6th, and then we're back to. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to play through the whole thing, intro, 1 verse, and the solo. This is with the capo. So again, if you are following along on the tab all the numbers on the tab are 1 fret low. It just becomes kind of confusing to have the tab reflect the capo, but the notes, there's some mental gymnastics involved in that I think are unhelpful. So if you want to play along, do it with the capo. If you want to play along with the recording, do it with the capo. When you're practicing it alone, and the fact is, it's probably most useful for you to pick one way, with the capo or not, and it depends really on the vocal, if you want to sing it in E or F, or even move it up to G, whatever you want to do. So here's intro, verse, and solo. Does go with the tab. Like I said, tab, the numbers are 1 fret lower if we are not accounting for the capo when we go up here. Here's the whole thing from the top. Intro, verse, and solo. 1, 2, 3. 2 bars and then verse. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Walk. A. 4 bars. E. B7. And then the solo. There you have it. Now, for those of you who've been playing this in E and would rather see this go right along with the tab, here's the solo in E, starting in the 7th position. 1, 2, 3. So there you have it, Luther Perkins' classic solo from Johnny Cash's great Folsom Prison Blues. And there is so much in there to help you start navigating the neck. If you're not used to soloing off of chord forms, this is a great introduction. Again, utilizing the A-shaped bar with the added 7th on the 1st string, utilizing 3 versions of the 4-chord, and incorporating open strings along with it, and being musical, memorable, all those great things. Thank you for watching. I'm Dave Isaacs. If you don't subscribe to this channel, please do, and I will see you next time.